Second installment of How to Write What You Know. We're going to have a look at a couple of the things around the house, which you'll remember from the last video, are sources of inspiration and things that you know. And the final one that I mentioned last time was the cutlery drawer. I did hint what we're going to be covering right now, which is knives. So what you do, what I do, and I suggest you do it as well, is if you want to pick something at random, you just want to write a short story, for example, as an exercise, eating the cable, and excuse me, if you've got an idea straight away, that's great. Just go ahead and write your story. If not, as an exercise, you pick something and you, first of all, make a list of what you know about that thing. And yes, I'm reading from a list because this is about my fourth go of recording this. And the last couple of times there were lots of R's and ums and ers. So we're going to try and eliminate those this time. So knives, what do we know about them? Well, obviously they cut things and they can be used for spreading margarine, butter, jam, that sort of lark. However, we could also write out a list of creative uses for them, such as jamming them under a door to create a wedge, using them as a makeshift screwdriver, prizing things open, and what else could you use? You could use the straight edge, if it's a long enough knife, as a ruler if you wish to draw some straight lines. And it could also be used by, say, a sculptor or an artist to, again, make lines or score and chip away from clay to create some sort of a sculpture. Now, some of those are positive things, but what I then do, is ask the next question, which is, how can this thing become a problem for my main character? And remember that part of any story is not the character, it's the problem. And then you have to have a character for whom this problem is big enough for them to want to fix it. It doesn't have to be a mad dramatic novel, it could be a little anecdote, 500-word short story about how something caused a certain amount of trouble for this particular main character. Now, what we then do is consider what kind of story this thing is suitable for. And obviously, not everything lends itself to, say, a romance or a science fiction story, but a knife obviously can be used in a thriller, can be used in a detective story, can be used in an action story, can be used in a fantasy. The knife has magic powers. It could be used, I suppose, in a romance, simply because somebody rescues the other person from a threat. Which brings us on to the third aspect that we do. We don't necessarily have to stick with the item that we have chosen. So, for example, a knife, don't want to use a knife, but a fork. How about the kind of fork that you vegetarian, so not the initial like, so I don't know what it's called, has two prongs and you shove it in meat so you can carve it, whatever they're called. It could be that. It could be anything out of the drawer. Or you could say, well, okay, it's not a knife, it's a screwdriver. And what can we do with screwdrivers? Very similar things. You can make puncture holes, you can open boxes with them, and obviously you can unscrew things. And you could use them as a threat. Or your main character could be threatened by a screwdriver in a story. So those are the things that you do. You recap, you make a list of what you know about the specific item that you have chosen. You then ask what other things it could do. You play what if with it and make, you use your creativity You know the exercise about 100 uses for a paperclip, for example. So it's this. It's not 100, but try and make ideas for 10 uses for the thing that you have chosen. And once you've decided what the problem is, you go and head and you start writing about that problem and how your main character fixes it. Okay, let's go on to item number 2, something a bit more animate. Take a pet, since my cat just tried to chew through the cable. So there you go. What do we know about pets? Sometimes they have teething problems. They try to chew things. In the case of cats and dogs, they can leave claw marks everywhere. If you've got a gerbil, they make, not gerbil, sorry, guinea pig. Guinea pigs make a lot of noises. I don't know whether they're communicating with each other, but certainly they can express excitement and other emotions, I assume. So, what do we know about pets that could be a problem? Well, one, they need a lot of care. Two, sometimes they need attention and fuss. Three, in some countries, it's illegal to only, I think it's guinea pigs. You can't have one guinea pig. You have to have two because they are such social animals that they pine away and die if there's not more than one. Again, it doesn't have to be a pet. It could be something which also then needs care and attention, like a house plant or a particularly rare plant in a greenhouse. Or if the protagonist is a farmer, then it could be the crops. Maybe taking that a step further, there's unseasonal bad weather and either the crops wilt, they don't germinate, or at the last minute they don't ripen or they bolt in the case of certain crops. So all of these are potential stories and you have to just pick one way to go and run with that. So what have I got here now? Use something with similar properties. Plants need care. And fork. Oh yeah, you could substitute a fork for the knife. Never mind the screwdriver. What happens if a fork falls to the floor and your main character steps on it? Ouch. Need to go to the hospital. In a romance, they might meet in the while they're in the waiting room. They might get talking to somebody, and that could lead to a romance. They might get talking to somebody who offers them a job once they get out of the hospital, which could lead on to a complication in the story. Injury to foot, or could also be a weapon. Oh yeah, I'll go back to cats particularly. I know this from first-hand experience. They get sick, so they need taking to the vet. The other thing that they do is they're noisy and they're nocturnal. But instead of a cat, supposing it's an owl outside, supposing it's a rooster first thing in the morning. I've had experience of that as well when I was in, well, another country. And this rooster used to wake up at about 4 a.m. and let everybody know that he was awake. They scratch. Dogs also scratch. This could be a source of embarrassment, especially if somebody were to be holding a dinner party and perhaps the animal requires attention and so the dinner which is cooking burns as a result. There's all those sort of things. You can take these things. The important thing to do is play what if. It's called lateral thinking. It was that term was invented by I don't know whether he was a psychologist. I presume not. Anyway, his name was Edward de Bono. And if you have problems with thinking up 100 uses for a paperclip, you could do worse and check out the nature of his work. And he teaches how to think laterally. By doing this kind of thing, you play what if. As an example, Australia, back in the days before cell phones and things, used to have to go to call boxes to make calls. But in Australia, they were free. So people used to go and make a call lasting 2 hours, to the frustration of everybody else outside. There was a brainstorming session to find some way of dealing with this. One person had the brilliant idea of making the handset so heavy that it hurt after 10 minutes. And apparently that cleared the problem up. I think they were called yellow telephones or something, but they were so heavy that you needed, well, I presume a weightlifter would go and use it as a workout, but that cured their problem because somebody played what if using the de Bono technique. So if you use the de Bono technique on your story problems, and you think laterally and you say, well, okay, I've chosen a knife, what is similar? I've chosen a pet, but what is similar? A plant, what else needs care? You go down this little rabbit hole, and in the end, you find something which is unique to you and which you can see could cause somebody a problem. Then you ramp that problem up and write a story about it. Choose your protagonist according to the problem. Problem first, then the protagonist. Okay, I've been rambling on for 11 minutes now. I did promise you a story about lint, or doing this with lint, because it can be done with absolutely anything. So we'll look at that next time. Lint, fluff, something of that nature. Okay, thank you for your attention, and bye-bye.